So in this video we're now going to add a couple of extra enemies and get those moving. So in the assets and in the level 1 monster pack we've got some really great creatures here. So the first one that I want is basically a bat, so I might choose this bat red. Just going to drag this into the scene. Not entirely sure where it's put that bat actually. Oh yeah, I do. It's put it there, but it's extremely small. So if I make it about 25 by 25 by 25, is that too big? I think it might be. Oh, actually, that looks about right. And then just rotate that around so it's looking at the player. And then I'm just going to kind of move this up into the air. There we go, got a little bat character. Alright, now this bat was made quite a long time ago, but it suits this perfectly. Alright, it's really good. So under our mesh, it's already using mobile unlit as the texture type, which is perfect. All we need to do basically is create an animator controller. So I'll do that. Right click, create animator controller for bat. Let's just drag the animator controller into there, and in the animator, as long as we're clicking on bat, for some reason, oh, it's because it's locked, sorry about that. Just make sure you unlock that, and we're looking for the animations, so that's going to be under models and bat. We should have a bat fly. I think it's bat move maybe. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Alright, so we're just going to drag this one in here. Alright, this is going to be its default, and then obviously when we kill it, it's going to be bat die. Alright, so let's drag this up here. Let's right click, make a transition to bat die. We don't need a transition back, and we simply need a parameter that is a trigger that is called die. So on this we are simply going to call that trigger die, no exit time, and it's just simply going to go it's going to go from bat move to die. Alright. So in our scene then, let's attach that script that we created. So in our mobile game resources, my script, enemy move onto bat. Our transform is the target. Our speed, let's maybe give this one a slightly faster speed, 1.5. And now in the simulator, you will see the bat start to fly toward the player. Alright, there we go. It's coming toward the player pretty quick, and then it kind of stops when it gets close enough. Alright, and obviously it will attack the player. Great, so that's a nice little bat character. Back into the level 1 monsters again, prefabs. We also have ghost. Alright, it looks pretty good. For this one I might choose like maybe a green ghost. This might be pretty cool. So I'm just going to drag this in. Once again, let's just change the size. For some reason they come in really tiny. Okay, 25 by 25 by 25. Drag this one up and rotate it around. I think that's a little bit too small actually. Yeah, so this ghost character, I'm going to make this one a lot bigger. So let me try 45 by 45 by 45. That's much better. Alright, so as you can see, it does look quite nice. Let's just maybe move this one over this side. Now for this character, probably don't even need to animate this character really. It's just simply going to be moving toward the player. So I can actually right click and even remove the animator of this. Whenever you see this where it says removed, it's simply because this is prefab. It means that it's changed from its original prefab. Don't worry about that. If you want that to disappear, you'll right click, choose prefab and unpack completely. That will then just get rid of that. So on my mesh I have my level 1 This is using an unlit transparent cutout, simply because this has some transparency at the bottom there. I would probably stick with that one. That's a relatively fast shader. Actually, let me try a mobile particles and something like alpha blended. Ooh, that looks terrible. Mobile particles additive. Yeah, kind of like this actually. It looks a little bit more like a ghost because now you can kind of see behind it. It looks kind of fun. Alright, and it's also a mobile shader as well. So that'll be super fast. So what I'm going to do there, Ghost Green 2, let's call it, and I'll drag this down into here in order to create a new prefab out of it. Once again, we need that script. So mobile game resources, my scripts, enemy move just onto Ghost Green 2. The target speed, maybe have this move pretty slowly, so about 0.7. So if we check this now in the simulator, you can see the ghost coming towards us as well. Alright, so they're all kind of getting close. Anything that's floating, like the ghost of the bat, the script that we've got at the moment works fine. Doesn't work fine for the zombie at the moment, and they're all kind of in the same position. As I move around, they sort of move to sort of stay in front of me, if you like. Don't worry, I'm going to sort that out later, so that when they get in the position that's close to the character, they're going to attack the character, then disappear. Alright, but at the moment that's working quite nice. Now, at the moment our script exists on 3 different characters. It exists on enemy, zombie, bat and ghost. Alright, the same script running 3 times. Now obviously we're going to have more than 3 enemies in the game. Okay, so presumably in the end we're going to have quite a lot of these scripts. Now they are instances of the scripts, which basically means it only really has to access the same script and change the elements, but it's still having to go into the update each time and perform a calculation. Okay, a calculation is obviously going to put a bit of stress on the CPU. If we can reduce the calculations in the update and just have simple move coordinates, that's going to be so much better. So what we can do in order to optimize this is actually take this calculation out of the enemy move and put it directly into the main. That means it only has to perform the calculation once and then transfer that to all the different enemies. Okay, so let's take a look at this. So we need a public float of speed, and we also need a step as well. Okay, so in our main, what we can do is, I'm going to comment this so that I know exactly what it's doing. This is going to be the enemy move speed. I would definitely recommend commenting your scripts so that they make sense. I'm going to comment this first part, which is joystick rotation. Okay, so we now need a speed, and I'm actually going to make this private because I'm actually planning on using this as a game mechanic whereby the characters kind of speed up every level. Okay, it makes it more interesting. So I'm going to make that private. I'm going to call it of type float, that I will call speed. And I'll start that off. I'll initialize it as something like 1. Then we need this step. Okay, now instead of actually calling this inside of the update, whenever you call a function inside of an update, it has to create a new variable inside of this update, and then as soon as it's finished the update, it has to destroy it. So you're constantly creating and destroying variables. It's not a particularly great way to use it on mobile. You're better establishing it at the top and it stays in memory pretty much throughout the entire game then. Alright, so it's much more effective. So I need a step, but I also need to be able to call that step from this enemy move script. So what we need to do is basically create it as a public static variable. Public statics are going to be available to other scripts so that they can also access them as well. And we called it step, and I don't think we need to initialize that because it's being performed on a calculation. All right, so that's just simply going to hold that value. So now in the update, once again in the update, what I might do here is just comment. All right, comments don't get added to the script. They're purely for us. The computer will not read any comments. All right, so this is joystick rotation. This is enemy move calculation. So we're simply going to copy this. All right, so in fact, let me just take all of this, Control and C, Control and V. There we go. So our step variable is going to be equal to speed multiplied by time.delta time. All right, we perform that calculation once every frame, only in one script. So now in this script, instead of saying this step, we're going to say the name of the script, main.step. Now it's going to access that variable instead of this one. That means we can now delete this line. We can even delete this variable. And we've simplified this script that gets run multiple times because it's on loads of different enemies. So we've simplified it to optimize it. Also, when we have a function that has nothing in it, an empty function, it's not a good idea to leave that function there. All right, because even though it's empty, the computer still recognizes it's got a start function or an update function. It's still going to have to open the script in order to read it. It's going to find there's nothing there, so then it closes the script and goes on to the next one. If you take it out altogether, it's not going to recognize it. All right, so it doesn't need to open the script. So what I'm going to do here is simply just comment it out by using a / and an asterisk, followed by an asterisk and a backslash. Okay, and that basically comments that element out. So now the computer basically will not see that start function. I'm going to save that. So now it's all simplified. Just to make sure that it's still working, I'm going to obviously go into the simulator and double check it. Okay, there we go. They're all moving, and obviously they're all moving at the same speed now. Great. All right, and obviously we've optimized that script.